Morning guys, Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School, back out here at the Pathfinder classroom. What we're going to do today is we're going to continue with part 2 on our series, No Map, No Problem, and we're going to talk about making our own map. We looked yesterday at how to lay things out on the ground using the Paul method to be able to determine a direct azimuth back to camp after we went on a scout. But there's a lot more that we can do with this information than just find our way back to camp. We can begin to make a map of the area that we're operating in if we don't have one. And I'm going to show you a little bit of detail on that today and how to do that. And then we're going to continue further in part 3, making our map. So stay with me. We're going to transpose this information that we had on the ground yesterday. Today we're going to transpose it to paper so that you can see what that looks like. And then we're going to discuss some of these notes that we took yesterday. Stay with me. Okay, so now I have a piece of paper. And I've taken my route page from yesterday, and I've started on one side over here, knowing that I traveled off in this direction. I started on one side and I put a triangle for my camp. I put just a little creek right behind my camp that I'm camped against. And then I marked out my route with the degree readings and how far I went. The next thing I did was I put a legend on the bottom of the map that tells me what's the scale of my map? Okay, and that's important. If I'm going to work in meters with my pace counting, then I might as well stay in the metric system if I'm going to make an actual map. So I went with 1 centimeter equals 20 meters. So 1 centimeter on this map equals 20 meters on the ground. I have a triangle for my camp, and then I have a little stick tree here for pines, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay? But it's important to understand the scale of our map. Now, if you decide you're going to do some serious mapping, you might want a couple of other tools of sorts to go with what you've got. Besides just your compass, you may want some type of measuring device like this one. Great for measuring tracks and sign and taking pictures of it and things like that. It's like an evidence ruler. But it has inches and it has centimeters on it. So it makes it really easy to use the metric system or the standard US system of measurement. And then you're going to want to make sure you've got a good sharp pencil and a decent eraser because you're going to erase. No question about that. Okay, if you remember right from yesterday, on our route page, there were a couple different notes. There was a trail crossing, a stream crossing. There were some pines that we saw. And then when we came back on our last leg here, from our last stop back to our camp on our direct azimuth, we saw a stream crossing again about 20 meters to 30 meters away from our camp. And that runs right back behind our camp. Now, if we were diligent enough on the first scout to actually mark down where we saw those things. In other words, if we put trail crossing and nothing else, then we're going to have to go back. Because what we need to find out is, where was that trail crossing on the route? Well, we know it was on our 138 degree leg, but we really need to know how far into that leg it was. So in this case, looking at our ruler, 20, 40, 60 meters into that leg, there was a trail crossing. We've marked that trail crossing on our map. Our creek crossing, again, if we were diligent and we marked down where that creek crossing was during that leg or during that march, we see that it's 5 marks on the centimeter marker. If each one equals 20 meters, then it was 100 meters through that march that we found that creek. And so on. And we have some pines here. And we had a long leg here that we saw pines quite a ways down the leg. It looks like from this map, and if we were diligent again, were the pines on both sides of the trail that we were walking, or the course that we were walking, or were we walking along the edge of a pine grove? Well, the way I've drawn it on this map, we were walking on the edge because I don't have pines on both sides, but I have about 20, 40, 60, 70 meters of that route that I saw pines. All of that is very important information. We're going to talk about why that's so important right now. Okay. Remember that this exercise that we're working with is in fairly small scale. Our longest leg was 300 meters. We're only a slight bit further than 300 meters to the outside over here. Probably about 320, 40, 60, maybe 380 meters, something like that. In large scale, I'd want to be working in grid squares of like 1,000 meters if I could, but we can expand this to 1,000 meters easy enough. But right now we're talking about a 300 meter square that we're working with from our camp for the most part. It's not exactly square, but it's about 300 meters to the furthest distance, or a little longer. Like this one over here is about 380, like I said. So almost a 400 meter situation here, but the square legs are just a little over 300 meters here, less than 3 here, less than 3 here, and right at 3 here. So we pretty much have a 300 meter square that we're working in. Fairly small scale, but 300 meters is a good distance in the eastern woodlands. You're not going to see that far in eastern woodlands for sure. You're lucky if you can see 100 meters. So now let's talk about the information that we have on this map and what we can do with this to make this map even better or more useful to us. Now I'm speaking in hypotheticals here a little bit because we haven't went out and checked any of this stuff out, okay? But remembering that this is only about 300 and some meters from where this creek is to where this creek crosses the trail, you're looking at right at 300 meters there. 15 centimeters would be 300 meters. We could ascertain that probably this creek runs somewhere through here and intersects, but we don't know that yet. So we have to figure that out. We also know that we have a grove of pines over here. We also know that we have a trail here, but we didn't cross any trails here. So this trail probably goes into here somewhere or into here somewhere. We don't know what's over here. We know there's a rock face here that we talked about yesterday that was about 70 meters across, or 50 meters across, excuse me. I'm sorry, 20, 30 meters across, right here. So it may not go here, it may go here, but if we were lucky, we would have a game trail that came across this creek and went into these pines so that we have a bedding area, a water area, and possibly there's a feeding area out here somewhere ahead of us to the south in the southern direction. Those are all things that are very important for us to know. The fact that we have a large pine grove over here is very important because it gives us a good source of fat wood. But while we're out looking, those are the resources that we were looking for anyway, were game crossings, water crossings, sources of wood and materials to make fire. Those are all the things that we're looking for with our possum mentality. Now what we need to do is, we've got a pretty good stretch right here that we can figure we're not going to miss very easily. So if we just take an azimuth with our compass and we lay it on our map right here, we can now lay our compass on the map and we can factor bearings in from it. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, now we're going to bring our map outside. We're going to erase all the things that we don't need on there. We talked about in there, we're going to leave our degree readings on our route from yesterday and a couple little scribbles that we had made off our route page yesterday, and that's it. What we're going to do is we are going to lay our map on something flat with no metal, like this stump. We're going to put a straight edge on that 80-degree reading. And we're going to put 80 degrees at the top of our compass. And then we're going to rotate our map until the north needle is in the doghouse. That's going to orientate our map exactly to the terrain that we worked with yesterday. Now we can take other readings off this map and they will be accurate, but we cannot move the map from where it's at right now. So every time we want to work with this map to take readings off of it for different routes, for going places, and for mapping, and future mapping, we've got to orientate this map to the compass every time, just like we just did. Okay, so now that we have that, we know that as long as we don't move this, we're good. So let's move this compass out of the way for a minute, and let's talk about what we want to do. Well, the first thing we want to know, or the first thing I'd like to know is, we know we've got this creek here, we know we've got this trail here, and we know we've got some pines over here. We don't know anything about what's in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a straight line from my camp straight out to the middle of these pines, just like this. Okay? What is that distance? Well, that distance for pace counting should be pretty close to 300 meters. Will get us almost to this area of the pines. About 310, 20 meters will get us there. That's important for us to understand. Now we need a reading. That's going to give us a direct bearing, and it's going to give us a distance, which means we can dead reckon ourselves to those pines. Plus we have kind of a backstop area here because we know when we get to these pines, we're okay, and we also have a little bit of leeway left and right, baseline-wise, to understand that we've got a good margin for error here, left and right for lateral drift, because we know those pines went for 70 meters. Now we're going to lay our compass on this straight edge, just like this, and we're going to rotate our bezel ring again until the north needle's in the doghouse. The reading at the top of our compass, which is about 132, is our bearing. 132. Okay, I'm going to write that on that line. That's our bearing for 300 meters. Now we can take our compass off. Now we know that if we want to go from our camp to this pine grove and explore how deep this pine grove is and things like that, and find anything in between, remembering we've got a stream here, a trail here, we'd like to find out where those go in this area, but we know that this is a good resource area, so we might as well go there anyway. So we're going to travel 300 meters on a 132 degree bearing, and if we want to come back, we need the reverse azimuth of 132. So we'll write that down too. 312 is our reverse, okay, for coming back. Now we can take off on our route, taking our waypoint flag with us, our waypoint marker, taking our compass, taking our notebook with our route page, and we're going to make a new route page for this leg of our journey. Okay, so when we come back, we've got some more information we can put on our map, or we can put it on the map as we go. When we were walking and we were keeping our pace count, all that good stuff, at 180 meters we crossed a stream. So if we put our measuring device on here, we count 180, 15 to 5, that'd be 200. One back would be 180. So we know that we had a stream crossing right here, okay? According to our notes, at 220 meters, we started to hit pines on both sides of us. So if that's 180, there's 200, 220. So right here, we started to hit those pines. And they were on both sides. We continued and walked, and at 280 meters, we were still in the pines. 240, 260, 280. We still had pines on both sides of us. So we'll put our little stick pine figures on here. Now, a couple things we can ascertain from that right off the bat. First of all, we know we had pines here, here, and we had pines here. So we can pretty much say that this area right here is going to be all pines. And we know that. So we can mark that as a pine grove on our map. That could be important later, but it's important now for fire resources. We also know that we had a creek right here. What I would probably do is I would come back on my way back following my reverse azimuth. I would put my waypoint marker right here, and I would start using this creek as a handrail and start following this creek up in the direction of travel this way. Now, I could take a direct reading on that, or I could just walk that creek using it for a handrail and look at my map and say, okay, I know that that creek from this point to the point at the top of our map that we found earlier should only be 10 is 200 meters. 10 times 20 meters, 200 meters. So it should only be 200 meters from here to here. So if I pace count 200 meters off while I'm walking this creek, I should be up in this area somewhere, hopefully. If I don't recognize anything, I can always just use that same handrail and come back. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some bearings while I'm here. I'm going to, since I'm using this for a handrail, I don't have to worry about taking bearings to get to here. I'm hoping that this runs up to here. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking readings along this creek bed. So what I might do is I might take an azimuth to a tree that's along the creek bed here, 40 or 50 yards away. Then following the creek bed, there might be a tree over here, 40 or 50 meters away. Here there may be another one 60 or 70 meters away. Here there might be another one, 40 or 50 meters away. And then when I get up in this area, I don't know exactly where I'm at. Maybe I'm here, maybe I'm not. But there's a creek. There is a tree somewhere right in here. And I put a marker, and I mark that on my map as well. And I know what these distances are, and I know what the degree readings were from one to the next, to the next, to the next. Now when I get back, I can connect the dots like this and say, okay, There's the flow of that creek. Go right back here, pick up my waypoint marker, because I use this as a handrail all the way back. Take my reverse azimuth of 312 and go straight back to my camp, understanding that from here to here, I already have a distance, so I know where I should be going to get to my camp. Or I may decide to follow this creek this direction for a little while and see what happens. But this allows me to start filling in things in this area of my map that are important to me, that gives me a better picture of what I've got. Because now I understand that I have a handrail in here. I understand that I have a big pine grove in here. I still don't know where this trail goes yet, and if I didn't see it cross this creek anywhere when I was walking up this creek, then I have to assume it doesn't cross this creek anywhere here. Maybe it crosses down in here somewhere. I'll have to figure that out later. But what I want you to understand from this example is how you can easily start to map your area very, very well and understand exactly what resources you have in a given area. And again, this is a small scale situation. We're talking 300 meters basically, when we could be talking 1,000. But you start small and you work your way up. This is great if you're working on your phase 1 and you have to do a map of your personal space. This type mapping works really, really well for that, even though it's a more advanced technique than phase 1. All right, folks, well, I'm Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me out for another video today. I thank you for everything you do for me, for my school, and for my family. I appreciate your views and your support. I thank you for everything you do for everyone affiliated with the Pathfinder School and Self-Reliance Outfitters. We'll be back with another video as soon as we can. Thanks, guys.